And then you have physical manifestations,
Yeah.
right? If it's not coming out outwardly in anger and expressed
Right.
that way, then it's coming out, it's manifesting in your system, in your
Right.
body, in your system, in
Yep.
your energy, right?
Yeah.
It's multifaceted. It and that's the thing, like we don't connect what's maybe physically what we're physically experiencing either to grief.
Welcome to the Metamorphosis Project Podcast. I'm your host, Tenya Eickenberg, and this is a space where transformation begins. Welcome back to the Metamorphosis Project Podcast, and today I have with me Victoria Volk. Victoria, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
I am so interested to hear. We talked a little bit about this before I hit record. I want to talk a little bit about what a advanced certified grief recovery specialist is, and that is a mouthful.
It is.
That's a lot of words. But also, I want to talk a little bit about end of life doulas because I don't think people really know about them too much. I know in the woo-woo space, I hear a lot of chatter about end of life doulas and getting through grief and how to do that. Um, but end of life doulas are just they're needed on everybody's level. Like it's not just in the woo-woo space. It's like it's and yeah, I'd love to talk about all of that. But please tell everybody who you are, what you do, and what brings you to this space.
Yeah, so I'm located in North Dakota. I have three nearly all adult grown children, two in college, one graduating from college soon here, another in her first year, just finished her first year of college, and then one more at home, almost an empty nester, and married for 23 years. And I support grievers who are ready to do the work. I had one client once say to me, you know, we hear you have to do the work. And she said, this is the work. So I'm sure we'll get into that. So I walk people through an evidence-based program to recover from the emotional pain of grief and also do energy healing as a certified Reiki master and certified biofield tuning practitioner.
What does a biofield tuning practitioner do?
We use tuning forks.
Oh, I have those on my Amazon list.
Well,
If my
not all
kids are
tuning
listening to
forks,
this.
not all tuning forks are created equal. So I may
Oh,
turn you to perhaps a more superior one that you have in your cart.
I think that would be absolutely wonderful. It's so funny that this comes up because I went away with my girls this past weekend to the Outer Banks, and we walked through this art gallery shop. A lot of different artists had their stuff there, and one of the sections was metaphysical, and there were some tuning forks that were there, and I was just like, ooh, and I didn't buy them because I have like because I'm also in the energy world, like how many people are picking that stuff up. It's
That's
like
true.
it's like nope, I don't want to take that one home. So walk us through, let's first talk about in if we get to the other one, great. If we spend a whole episode talking about the grief recovery part of it, then I'll have you back and we'll talk about the end of life doula. Um, but walk us through what that entails, how you came to getting into that line of work.
Well, I can spew information like it's coming out of a fire hose, so I think we can cover a lot. So let me give you the quick and dirty on the grief recovery because I really want to share as much as possible for your listeners. So I came to this work because I'm a lifelong griever. I lost my father at a very young age. I was 8 years old. He died of cancer. He was had six he was given like 6 months to live. He was stage 4, lived 16 months, something like that. I can't remember how many months he was given to live, but he lived 16 months died in a nursing home.
Mm.
And my mother's mother had passed away the year before that of also of cancer. And so by the age of 8, 9, my mother was emotionally unavailable. Of course, right? Like she lost her mother
Yeah.
very close to her husband of 17 years at the time. I was the youngest of 4 children. My brother was 5 years older than me, so I really had to grow up a lot. I kind
Yeah.
of grew up raising myself, taking care of myself, being my own emotional caretaker, and kind of my mother's too. So really that set the stage for the work I'm doing now, but also I was in the years that followed, I was molested. And
Mm.
so all I knew growing up into my teen years was trauma, grief, emotional unrest. My mother had remarried within a couple of years of my dad passing. That wasn't a healthy marriage. He could have been a father figure, but because of his occupation, he was gone most of the time. But he was good to me.
Hmm.
I won't say that he was good to me, but it just wasn't a healthy marriage.
Yeah.
And so the environment I was in was very chaotic, emotionally unstable. And so, yeah, that set the stage into my 20s. I was in a 5-year relationship, which was 3 years too long, and ended that relationship. Fast forward, my husband came back into the picture. We were friends for 7 years, and we both really don't understand how it came to be, but here we are 23 years later and 3 kids, and but that all of that, because my life was really a train wreck at the time my husband came back into my life. In between ending that relationship and getting with him, I was abusing alcohol. I should have been fired from my job. I almost got my license suspended. Like I was really not in a good place.
Hmm.
And excuse me. And so my husband coming to the picture completely transformed my life. And I had some more loss. Of course, then I was deployed. We deployed. I'm a veteran. We're both veterans. We were in Iraq. Ended up starting our family. Like this is the quick and dirty
Right.
of my
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
story.
No, you're good. We've got time, so you're good.
Right. So what led me to grief recovery, though, was having another loss actually. So let me backpedal just a little bit. When my father passed away, his family was no longer in my life. So, in one fell swoop, I not only lost my dad, but also my grandparents,
Yeah.
cousins, aunts, uncles. They weren't in my life anymore. I had found out from my mother that my uncle, who was very close to my dad, and all of his siblings really died young. My dad died when he was 44,
Oh my
and
goodness.
none of his siblings lived beyond 60 or much beyond 60.
Right. Wow.
Um, and a lot of cancer, heart issues. So again, this generational
Right.
grief,
Yeah.
trauma, that we
Yeah.
talk about in the healing space.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't really see those patterns.
No,
You know,
no, they don't.
you go to the doctor, you're like, what is your family history? And you're like,
How much time do you have?
cardiovascular, cancer, blah, blah, blah. But, when you really stop to think about it, you go back, like, is it how many generations had all of this? And
Right. And
they
because
only go to your parents.
when there's grief and there's trauma,
Yep.
which trauma is what happens, grief is
Yep.
what's left, we resort to what we know, and what we know is not necessarily accurate or
Right.
helpful.
Yep. Yep.
So um that happens for generations. That's how these patterns continue and how we respond to grief. And, my father too was also a veteran, a Vietnam veteran who really came back a different person as well.
Hmm.
And so there was a lot of complex layers to him in his life and all of that. But when my uncle, I had found out that he had brain cancer, and I went to see him, but I didn't go to see him because I felt like that's what I needed. It was a spiritual draw to go
Hmm.
see him because I didn't know if he would even recognize me or want to see me. Granted, I have not seen this man since my father's funeral.
Yeah.
But what happened was we both had this beautiful experience for the next 6 months of reconnecting, and me feeling closer to my dad than I had since the day he died, and probably him as well, right? Like here's his brother's offspring, right? Like the
Hmm.
youngest. And And so it was very healing, I think, for both of us. Because this, what happens too in families dynamics, these stories get passed down. And, being a child, it's like, I never, I, al- first of all, I'm a questioner. If you're familiar with human design, I have the gate of doubt in my conscious sun. So I am the questioner. I'm the natural skeptic. And so all these stories that I heard growing up, I didn't necessarily subscribe to them. I
Hmm.
always questioned, like, well, why,
Good for you.
And that's how I'm designed.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I think that's awesome. I think
yeah, so I'm here to
I love
question. Yeah.
questioners because I was never a questioner. I was a follower and I was just like, okay, whatever.
Well, and I was, and then it was shut down, right? Like,
Yeah.
why are you,
Yep.
yeah, anyway, we can get into all that
Yeah.
maybe on another podcast. But anyway, and at the time I was writing my book. I was in the editing phase of writing my book when this experience with my uncle came to be. And so it was just really divine timing and
Hmm.
all of it. Um, but along with that loss, he passed. And actually, my aunt, his wife, passed the month before him.
Wow.
Very bizarre. But it opened a lot of those wounds.
Yeah.
And then also, I had a friendship that fell away. And so I was like, here I felt myself being pulled back in time to my past and not knowing what to do with all of these emotions and feelings that were coming up. And I realized, oh my gosh, this is grief. Grief is my issue. All these years, like this is what's been dictating my choices, a lot of my choices, and kind of taking the reins in my life, like because that's what grief does. It
Yeah.
changes us. It impacts us on every level of our lives and can influence how we show up in our lives and make
Yeah,
decisions
absolutely.
and show up for ourselves and the people we love and care about and relationships and all of that. And I went to Google and found grief recovery, the grief recovery method, and the rest is history, so they say. So it changed my life. I went to Austin, Texas. That was an experience in and of itself. I ended up incredibly sick the day of training
Mm,
starting. So when we go through grief recovery training, you actually go through the method yourself
right.
or doing the work yourself. But when you go through it to be certified in it, it's like a fire hose. Like it is so intense, and I don't recommend that
I
for
think that's
everybody.
with any energy healer that goes through a certification, right? You have to learn what you're doing and so you practice on yourself first. And if you're in the energy space, you know that when you are starting something a couple of days, a couple of weeks before you start getting into it, your body lets you know that there's shit coming up and you're going to have to deal with this not feeling very good.
Oh, it was both ends.
Yeah.
And I can confirm that it was not something I ate because I met somebody on a tour bus the night before. She was there for a life coaching conference and we ate the exact same meal.
Yeah.
And I texted her the next day and she's like, "No, I'm fine." I'm like, "Oh my God, I feel like I'm gonna die."
It's purging. It's
Yes, it was the
purging.
purge
Yeah.
before the purge.
Yep.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I know that now,
Yeah.
right? Because
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
the energy stuff didn't even come until after grief recovery,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
what was fascinating in hindsight when I look back now, it's like, wow, like this this really grief recovery cleared and paved the way
Yeah.
for me to embody my potential and come into this work because I was more open to receive messages, right? From God, from universe, spirit, whatever. And I kept hearing Reiki, Reiki, Reiki. And I'm like, what the heck is this Reiki business? You hear something three
Yep.
times, they say,
Yep.
it's like, then that's the breadcrumbs, right?
Yep.
So I started to follow the breadcrumbs, and that's where it's led me to everything that I offer and do today.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's a
So,
really quick synopsis of.
yeah. Well, we talked a little bit about um, the grief recovery, not just embodying grief of those who have passed on. And I think this is just as important to talk about in grieving those who are still here.
Hmm.
You know, I don't know about you, but for me, a lot of estrangement patterns have been coming up in my awareness, and because of the generational estrangement patterns that have been going on in my lineage. And that was one of the things that um, I came into this lifetime to eradicate from my bloodline. And while and so I was telling you before that I grieved my mom so many times while she was living, that when she finally passed, when not when she finally passed, when she passed away, it was so weird because I wasn't quite sure how to grieve her now that she was gone. And you had talked about that you had to, so talk to us a little bit about grieving those who are still here, because I think that is much harder to do than grieving those who are no longer here.
Well, let me give you a grief definition that you probably have never heard, and your listeners have probably never heard. So, in grief recovery, we define grief as the loss of hopes, dreams, and expectations. It's
Ooh,
anything that you wish would have been or could be different, better, or more.
wow. When you put it into that context, it really opens up the pathway of what you're grieving for. Loss of jobs, loss of not going to college, potential relationship. Like there's a whole slew of things that can come up.
When you move, you're
Yeah.
losing your neighborhood. You're losing, your UPS guy or your postal service person that you've maybe talked to and engaged with on a daily basis. So then you go to another neighborhood, you're having to start all over again, right? You're
Yeah.
there, these are these like micro losses, right? That kind of stack up as well. You have to, and if you move, maybe you can't take your pet with you. So then you
Right.
lose a pet as well.
Yeah.
Or your children have to change schools or you start a new job. Like there is so many layers to grief that so when people are doing this work with me, and even I found this myself, and probably every other person you talk to who's done this work, it's like, oh my gosh, I hadn't thought of that in decades. Or things come up as you're peeling that onion, and you just, it's stuff that you don't even connect the dots that have had an impact on you, but your body remembers.
Yeah.
We carry that stuff. We
Yeah.
hold on to that gunk.
Yeah. Yeah. That can get quite heavy and quite overwhelming, I'm assuming.
Well, and no wonder people show up to the grocery line and are angry and impatient and because then what doesn't come out in a
Right.
healthy, productive manner comes out as like projectile vomit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Emotional vomit on the people around you.
Yeah. It can come out as anger, as complaining, as tears. It come out in so many ways that is quite destructive to your system, to your nervous system.
Well, and then you have physical
Yeah.
manifestations, right? If it's not coming out outwardly in anger and expressed
Right.
that way, then it's coming out, it's manifesting in your system, in your
Right.
body, in your system, in
Yep.
your energy, right?
Yeah.
It's multifaceted. And that's the thing, like we don't connect what we're physically experiencing either to grief.
Yeah.
We go to the doctor to find a reason or a cause,
Right.
and
Yep.
you know
Yeah.
And I've found that for myself back
And
in
so you just opened
2014.
my eyes to a few things that I need to take a deeper look at, because maybe it is grief around, because one of the things you mentioned was moving, and my dad was in the Air Force, and so we moved every 3 or 4 years. Even though we were in one of the same places for a total of 13 years, it was two different neighborhoods. And so um yeah, just if that just kind of went, hello.
And you, as a child, people say children are resilient. I
Right.
absolutely hate that. Children are forced to adapt.
Right. Yeah, and adaptability is not being in alignment. And when you're out of alignment, grief can absolutely throw you out of alignment.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, mind blown. So Can you walk us through one of the steps to figuring out, is it grief that is holding me back? Is it, what are there different types of grief? Let me start there. Are there different types of grief that people go through?
I hear terms like disenfranchised grief or what's like not delayed grief, but what is it? Like anticipatory grief.
Hmm.
Okay, like for me, grief is grief.
Okay.
It's grief.
Right.
We don't need a label. We don't need another label. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
In my opinion, this is my
Okay.
opinion. And I can get us on a soapbox on this, but it doesn't change. The circumstances of how you get there don't doesn't change that the grief is still
Grief.
grief,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
make it worse, it doesn't make it better. It the grief is what it is, and it's going to show up differently for you versus your neighbor or your friend or your mother or your brother or your sister or what have you, because your relationship to that person,
Hmm.
I'll say people because that's in the context of grief, that's where we first experience it,
Yeah.
is in relationship, whether it's a pet or a person. But regardless, it's, well, I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
That's okay.
um,
We were talking about labels of grief and
yeah, it doesn't change the fact that the grief is grief,
yeah.
and it's going to manifest differently for you versus that's where I was going with
Yeah.
it. Because your relationship is unique to that person. This is why, like in family dynamics, especially. So you mentioned your mother passing, and my heart goes out to you, especially a complex or complicated relationship. Because if do you have siblings?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so each and every one of you had a different relationship with your mother. So let's say one of your siblings was much closer to her, and that sibling looks at you and it's like, "Well, why aren't you as upset about this as I am?"
Hmm.
And especially if there's an age gap. I'm 9 years apart from my sister, 5 years from my brother. Even though we grew up in the same household, my relationship with our father was much different, or
Right.
I'll say my mother because she was in the picture the longest, or has been she's still living. My relationship with my mother was very different from my sister because when my father passed, she was 18. She
Yeah.
would join the Air Force. She was gone. She left. And actually, I was very close to my sister. So I also lost my sister too.
Right.
She
Yep.
was my person. I mean, she took me to see Johnny Cash, my first concert ever. Like, who brings their 12-year-old sister to a concert with them, right? So, I mean, I was very close with her. And so that was devastating when she left. But our experience growing up was very different because she got the best of our mom, is how I
Right.
always saw it,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and I saw my mom at her absolute lowest,
Right.
on a daily basis. And so that's why when the day comes when she passes, my complex feelings, my connection, my how I feel about it will be very different through a very
Yeah.
different lens than what she sees
Yeah.
or
And
experience.
yeah, and I think that that is true to what other people who have always looked from the outside at
Yes.
you should be grieving in this way. When my mom did pass, I posted on Facebook so that all of her friends would know that she had passed on. And I was getting all these beautiful comments about what a wonderful person she was. And I was like, man, I really wish I had known that person.
Mm. And maybe guilt too. Did you feel guilt? Like, oh, I should feel this certain way, but I don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was like, because by the end of her life, we did not talk very often. Like I think it had been, I talked to her on her birthday. She wasn't very lucid then, and she passed about a month after that. And so prior to that, it had been like even maybe Mother's Day. I'm not even sure I talked to her on Mother's Day. It might have just been a message. So we didn't talk very often because I had put up those boundaries. I had set that barrier that this was going to be a surface level relationship because I couldn't keep going through what I was going through with her. And so when she did pass, you know, I let out this cry, but it was more of a cry of relief. And that made me feel guilty
Mm.
because it was like, you know, we weren't close, but like when you try to when you compare her to other mothers, it's like, oh, well, she wasn't that bad. But no, don't, you know, I had to keep telling
It's
myself, don't,
minimizing. Mhm.
right, I don't minimize what you went through, because for you it was awful. And so I'm sure a lot of your clients go through that as well when they have had tough relationships and they've, you know, grieved while their parent or their significant other was alive, because you grieve, like you said, for what you wish you had or what you know you weren't going to get. And you do that on a consistent basis when you're in turmoiled relationships.
And let's add another layer to that because
Oh, please.
I've had so many conversations with people who just on my podcast over 5 years, you know, them sharing their stories. And one of the things that has come up quite a bit through people's stories is that, and one thing that grief recovery has helped me is to have more compassion
Hmm.
and to put I'm a very empathetic person. I consider myself an empath, so I can it's easy for me to put myself in someone else's shoes and how I would feel in that situation, but not everybody has that
Right,
in
right.
them.
Yeah.
But one of the things that has come up a lot in conversations that I've had with grievers is that um the other layer of this is that sometimes there is a part of the story that like we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And we are terrible. I think overall, like we are pretty terrible communicators.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm actually fearful of like this generation coming up because, you know, we communicate in like shorthand and emojis. I'm terrible with emojis, but you know, we it's like the texting, the email, like that's kind of replaced this how to have a conversation, right? Like I've had to and
Absolutely.
even teaching my kids like as they're getting into adulthood, like, no, you need to make a phone call. You need to book your own appointment.
Right.
You need to learn how to do these things, how to
Yep.
hold a conversation with people and all of that. And I think we've just and then when it you know, it's like I have to call, make an appointment. That might seem easy, but ooh, I have to tell you like really in all the ways that you've hurt me. And that's hard. Like we
Yeah.
avoid the difficult conversations like the plague. And so what I've connected to people's stories is that with these complicated relationships, it's it's really difficult to communicate. Like
Hmm.
to be emotionally honest is one of the hardest things we do as humans is to
Yeah.
be emotionally honest and there is a way to do it compassionately and empathetically, but we there's no guidebook to that. There's no
No,
guide
there
on
isn't.
that.
And you also have to, I think what stops a lot of people is like you want to have those conversations, but you don't know how the other person's going to take it. And so then you start having all these stories go through your head of like, how are they going to react? What are they going to say? Are they going to hear me? Are they going to listen to me? And through all those conversations with yourself, you then stop yourself from having that conversation because you're afraid of how they're going to take it or what they're going to say. Are they going to feel like they're being blamed for something? Or so you go through all these different things. And then you're like, oh, I'll just send an email or a text. But then there's no emotional inflection behind that. And so they're
Mhm.
reading it how they want to read it.
Exactly.
And then
Yeah.
that's where the trouble starts.
Yes. Yep.
And
So the
we,
cure for this is
yeah,
we become emotionally complete with ourselves.
right. Yeah,
So
have
we
those
do the work.
conversations. Yeah, yeah,
We do the work because it is very difficult to come to a conversation with an unhealed person,
yeah,
with someone, especially like a parent child relationship. If
right,
that parent is unhealed, I mean, where do you start?
right.
It's not my job or your job to heal that parent, right?
No,
It's not my job to show them the way. They have to, you have to want to sweep your own doorstep.
Yeah,
And
you have to be able to see where the other person is coming. Like you said, you have to be able to kind of see the other perspective. You have to be able to put yourself in their shoes and go, I am so sorry I put you through that. And then stop. There's no but, there's no excuses. It's just, I'm sorry. And that is very hard for people to do when they don't think they've done anything wrong.
well, and the beautiful thing about the work of grief recovery is that you don't need to have those conversations in
Yeah.
person with the other
Yeah.
person, is that we work through apologies and forgiveness because forgiveness is for us.
Yes.
It's like, let's say you say to somebody, you really hurt me in this way, but I forgive you. And like you said, that other person, if they don't feel like they did anything wrong, all you're going to get is a defensive
Right.
response.
Right. Why are you forgiving me? I didn't do
Not
anything
even a
wrong. Right.
response, a reaction. You're
Yeah.
going to get a reaction that's
Yep.
probably not one that's going to be favorable or what you expected or what you hoped, right?
Yeah.
And so what's happened as a result, you're stuck in emotional jail.
Yeah.
So, resentment is a poison we take hoping the other person dies. But really
Yep.
it only causes
Yep.
our own suffering.
Yeah.
So that's been the beautiful I say that grief recovery is the gift that keeps on giving
Mm-hmm.
because it's so versatile. It's even though it's an evidence-based method that every griever we goes through with regardless of the reason for the
Mm-hmm.
grief, regardless of the relationship, divorce, death, doesn't matter. Everyone goes through the same method and it's evidence based, but it's unique to you because, like I said, your relationship is unique. It's specific to your grief. And that's what makes it so like there's nothing like it.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing like it.
Yeah. I love that. As we bring this conversation to a close, obviously we did not get to the death doula part of it. So I will have to have you back at some point to talk about that because I think that is such an important position to hold in the grief process of somebody passing on, not just for the person passing on, but for their loved ones as well. And so I'll definitely want to have you back to talk about that. But is there anything about grief recovery that we didn't touch on that you want the listeners to know or to hear?
Well, I think if you haven't gleaned it yet, grief is more than just about people, about death.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so this method is transformative and it's for you and it's not for anybody else. And it's not going to require you to go to therapy for 5 years or 3 years or lay on someone's couch and talk about the same thing week after week after week. This is an evidence based, educational, action based program. So you take action. It's empowering in that way because you feel like you're actually making progress because that is the work.
Yeah.
It's, and there's someone to guide you along the way, like me. And also, it's not also unique about it is that I go first. So I also share in this program. And that's very different from therapists because
Yeah.
I think with therapy, traditional therapy, there's like this barrier or this wall.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the professional, you're the patient or the client. And that's kind of dissolved in this method, in this
Yeah.
program. So
I
I
love
think
that.
that's the beautiful thing about it too, is we form this really deep connection and bond with our clients because of that.
Yeah. And I think that's incredibly important to feel because it makes people feel safe to be able to share what they need to let go of.
It's disarming.
It is. It is. And you're right. When you go into traditional therapy, there is already that wall there because there has been a fear instilled in therapists about sharing personal stories
Hmm.
because it makes them seem, in the eyes of some people, weak or unprofessional.
And ironically, it's through stories that we heal
Yeah. Yeah.
our
Yeah.
own and hearing others.
I love that. Victoria, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you to work with you?
Best place is my website, theunleashedheart.com. All my links are on there. I'm on social media. I'm not really too active. It's not really my jam, but yeah, it's at the Unleashed Heart on Instagram mostly is my preferred place,
Mm-hmm.
but my website, my podcast Grieving Voices, there's 5 years of content on there. You can hear other people's stories. And the first 10 episodes actually are the most educational. It's actually based on the work that I do. So if you want to get some more education on grief recovery, listen to the first 10 episodes or so of Grieving Voices, and that will get you right on par with the educational piece of this program.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Metamorphosis Project podcast. I hope today's episode brought you inspiration, joy, and a spark of empowerment. Remember, transformation is an incredible journey, and every single step you take towards self-care and healing brings you closer to the life you truly desire. If this episode uplifted you, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps us to share this journey of hope, resilience, and joy with many listeners. For more tips, support, and inspiration, come and visit us at designyourexistence.com. Until next time, keep growing, keep healing, and keep shining brightly. You are absolutely worth every bit of love and care you give to yourself. Take care, stay joyful, and be well.